Thanks for tuning in to Look at My JPEG, the podcast that discusses NFT, DeFi, and NFT financialization. This is your host, Xerox Jose, the founder of nftperp. The reason why I want to do this podcast is because there's just not enough people talking about NFT financializations. In this podcast, you can expect us to invite guests that are builders, founders, even investors that are deep in the NFT financialization space. We'll discuss their story, what they're building, and how you can get involved. So thanks for tuning in.
GM.
GM, how are you doing?
Good. Hoping we can get a little bit more better turnouts as people start coming in and listen to the episode. But nonetheless, these are always recorded and will be uploaded to our Spotify account. But thanks for coming on. I appreciate you guys for joining, and let's get into it. Before we jump into what MetaQuant is, give us a quick intro of yourself, how you got into crypto, and we can kind of talk about what MetaQuants have been up to.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for also hosting us here, guys. It's great. We have also been collaborating with you for some time on the Oracle site, which I guess we're also going to announce at some point. But on our side, it's Martin here. I'm the co-founder, which is focused more on the strategy and business development of what's happening in our company. Prior MetaQuants, I've been working in other DeFi and, let's say, more institutional level companies such as Signum Bank, as well as Melt, which is a lending protocol. Furthermore, regarding my, let's say, more educational background, I've graduated from Bocconi University with a degree in computer science and, let's say, a bigger focus on data science, and thus my interest in the analytical space. And that's me. Maybe I can also introduce MetaQuants in a few sentences.
Yeah, thanks for the quick intro of yourself. Really excited to dive into MetaQuants, the features you guys have created on your product. Give us a quick introduction of MetaQuants, maybe the origin story of how you guys got started, and we can dive into the details.
Yeah, absolutely. It will be my pleasure. So, essentially, at MetaQuants, we are building analytical solutions for NFT finance. The whole idea for MQ was born about 1 year ago, last April. Georgi, who is the other co-founder, and I were part of an NFT hackathon that was organized by Nexo, internationally known lender in the crypto space. The whole topic of this datathon was about how we can basically find something interesting at the intersection of AI and NFTs. And that's when we actually managed to come up with a prototype of a machine learning algorithm that could make accurate appraisals for individual NFTs by taking into account sentiment data, historical transaction activity, as well as the characteristics of a given NFT. Based on the accuracy of our models, the team managed to win the competition, and eventually we also received a grant from Nexo. And this is more or less how we started, entered into the space. Our first product was a proprietary collection floor price algorithm, which also took into account wash trading, which we also developed in-house. The main focus were blue chip NFTs on ETH, and for it, we allowed it to be accessed either off-chain via an API or on-chain via an Oracle. Recently, go on.
We'd love to kind of touch on like the first product you guys have created. Like, what was the problem with the normal floor prices calculations or valuations in the markets that's being used for financial reasons, and how does your AI model solve those problems and become like a unique feature and valuation, a value proposition that companies should use?
Yeah, actually quite interesting question. Even back then, there was the problem of overpricing of the Grail blue chip assets. Nexo being an OTC NFT lender, they also managed to experiment with different pricing providers, but again, the pricing when it comes to such kind of assets was kind of problematic. That's the reason why we also started challenging the actual pricing of individual assets by penalizing overestimates more than underestimates. And eventually, this was a really good way for us to provide the lender with a reduced risk exposure. And eventually, that's how we actually started integrating. Firstly, building this solution for Nexo, and then expanding also for other protocols such as Pine. They were mainly interested in the collection floor prices. And while I'm chatting about this, the biggest problem back then was, again, related to wash trading. We solved this by firstly extrapolating some financial techniques to the NFT trading segment. And so that's how we actually managed to also publish a paper about how we deal with wash tradings, essentially dealing with directed graph encodings as well as tracking different accounts. Eventually, this was a pretty good solution. And that's why we started getting some traction on this Oracle as a service product as well. And that's more or less how we actually got our first product.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. I think for as the NFT finance market evolve, you start to need to take as a protocol if you're providing lending infrastructure as a service for connecting lenders and borrowers. There is a level of risk management that need to be placed in as the market grows bigger and bigger. You are starting to service more sophisticated lenders and borrowers, and in those situations, like, you have to be quite careful in terms of not treating NFTs all equal, right? Because NFT in a collection, you have a lot of different rarities, and to price different rarities requires a certain amount of historical data, and different appraisal companies like including you guys and Upshot, and there's a bunch of other ones as well, all seem to have different price points for individual NFTs. And as a lender, you are sort of exposed to certain type of risk if you are allowing an algorithm or a direct protocol make decisions for you in terms of lending out valuable assets. So I think having that level of sophistication and risk management on how you evaluate these different appraisals and NFTs become a very important thing, including like you mentioned, the Nexo team was relatively, and maybe they still are, focusing a lot on NFT lending and borrowing, and these sort of risk management and not overappraising assets becomes a very crucial point for these businesses to one, become more profitable, and two, not lose money.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with you on this one. And also when it comes to emerging markets, one of the biggest challenges is price discovery. In the cases of the NFT market, the main way to tackle this segment for us was to take more of a tailor-made approach, starting with a collection by collection tailor-made solutions. The other approach would have been just to come up with a single algorithm that can be generalized over a plethora of different collections, which again wouldn't get us with the most accurate appraisals. That's the reason why we have more or less taken this approach of really customizing the specific parameters and the way that we're actually appraising the given collection based on some, let's say, more tailor-made features.
Yeah,
and this is also like really important on the actual use case, whether this is an oracle provided through a perpetual DEX like yours, or on the other side a lender. It is really depending on the final use case.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's quite a few different use cases for NFT finance, mostly around appraising, and I think there's a big difference in between a floor
a collection floor, appraisal, and versus individual NFT appraisal. So for you guys, would you say a lot of your focus is on individual appraisals, or most of your integrations and partnerships have been focusing more on the full value appraisals?
Yeah, to be honest, initially we thought that the individual appraisals is going to, let's say, account for a bigger part of our attraction. However, the opposite turned out to be true. The floor prices are actually much more utilized by different protocols. I already named a few, including the case with nftperp, where we have already actually provided some information on our documentation. So if you actually want to dive deeper on how we're actually accounting for a floor price oracle for a perpetual DEX, you can also check our methodology on our documentation. It's more or less similar, at least in terms of the steps when it comes to a lending oracle, but there are also some technicalities that are a little bit different. So for all the people interested in the maths behind it, please go out and check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And moving on to besides Oracle, can you talk to us a little bit more about I'm fascinated by the app itself. I've been on the website a couple of times and I've looked at your terminal. Talk to us a little about your terminal that's currently on MetaQuants.xyz. I think there's so much that you guys are covering in the market in terms of NFT analytics, in terms of NFT finance, loan markets, marketplace analytics and data. There's news involved as well. There's a really good overview of general statistics around NFT finance. So, yeah, talk to us a little bit more about the terminal itself. What can users find helpful in terms of insights on the platform? How should they use it? And all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for mentioning this one. After exploring the field for quite some time, we've realized that we're actually storing so much data in our backend that is not utilized, or at least we're not showcasing it or displaying it anywhere, that it also came to us that we can actually provide this to our users. So eventually, the idea for the empty terminal was to serve as a crucial middle layer connecting various participants in the NFT ecosystem, starting with the lenders, the borrowers, and the NFT traders, and also providing them with a way to interact and to get a better idea of what's happening on the NFT financialization protocols. So, in a sense, the MQ terminal is actually an NFTFi aggregator, providing users with a comprehensive analytical and at the same time lending infrastructure so they can allocate liquidity in a more efficient and seamless way. That was the main idea behind what we've been actually building for the last couple of months. So on one side, you can use the MQ terminal to streamline your research and strategy development, whether you're looking to allocate liquidity to some of the most competitive APRs across a certain collection or a given protocol. For example, you can also check the APRs in our NFT finalization section. Then you are also allowed to learn more about the total borrowed and repaid capital amounts, liquidations happening, as well as monitor whether there is an upcoming liquidation on the peer-to-peer or the peer-to-pool side. And with this, we're actually already implementing this. It is already live. People can interact with it. The next level, and actually the next thing that you want to achieve, is to also to allow protocols to directly integrate with what we already have on the analytical side, and also allow people to execute directly from the MQ terminal. That's more or less it.
Yeah, so it becomes like an aggregator in a way where people can come to your protocol as sort of a one-stop shop, right?
Yeah, exactly.
To monitor the market, monitor their portfolio, check their debt, or maybe they're a lender. They can use this platform to monitor their positions and execute strategies based on analytics provided on your platform. And you don't, as a user, you don't have to go to 5 different websites and check different rates and execute, on 5 different websites. It becomes a one-stop shop for NFT finance users to take actions.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really allowing NFTFi participants to just gain all the necessary information for them to make a quick strategy, a quick trade if you want. Right now, we only have the lending protocols. However, we are conscious of what's happening in the space, and we're also going to be adding a dashboard dedicated to perpetual dexes like yours, allowing them to get this additional yield. Whether they want to go on with some delta neutral strategies or whether they want to go long on a certain collection, it would be great to also to allow them to execute such kind of trades, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where it gets quite interesting when you can kind of piece this, when you can piece different strategies together across protocols. Like as a lender, you can provide, collateral. So you can provide capital to borrowers, earning a interest rate, but you want to protect your downside risk. As a lender, you can also open a short position on nftperp protocols and achieve a more well-rounded and risk-managed strategy using your protocol. So yeah, I think the possibility here is quite large in terms of what a terminal itself can do. So what else should the users be aware of in terms of using the terminal? Like what are the things that we should be unpacking here?
Yeah, so for example, the general user experience would be when you open the terminal, you're going to get a higher level overview of what's happening in the space, essentially the loan volumes in terms of protocol, also the number of loans started, liquidations happening, or even the number of users that are being onboarded as a growth metric. Then if you want to dive a little bit deeper, you can also go and select a specific collection that we're currently providing information for. For example, if you go to the board tapes, you're also going to get a little bit sense of how we can potentially trade. We are integrating trading view, so we can even try to do some technical analysis if you wish. Another interesting thing that we are also quite fascinated about is the fact that we are also following the market depth. So whether you want to execute a bunch of sales or quick trades, you're also going to get a pretty good understanding of how much liquidity there is for the given collection. And then obviously, if you want to understand more about a specific token ID, let's say a board tape that you are currently in possession of, you can also check the current pricing for it. This is again powered by our machine learning methodologies. And also we have a bunch of different monitoring tools, like has this given NFT been part of a collateral deal before, on which protocol, and how we can actually generate some additional APR on it. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
One interesting thing that I have been thinking about, like when we're designing the process of, because nftperp, we have designed our own Oracle model as well, which has some similarities compared to yours. But we're very much looking forward to collaboration on our Oracle data infrastructure. That being said, a lot of different loans as collateral, like those NFT as collateral, in a situation where, let's say the loan has been defaulted and the collateral, depending on which protocol it is, for NFTFi as an example, the collateral goes straight to the lender. And in those situations, depending on what the LTV was and how the price of the NFT has moved over time, sometimes, well, a lot of the times, the lenders are getting very, very cheap NFTs at a very, very large discount. Let's say the LTV for the loan was 50%, and the price hasn't dropped that much, just the borrower perhaps forgot to pay back the loan when they have money to. in those situations, the lenders are getting these NFTs at a very, very, what do you say, very
essentially on a discount, more or less.
Yeah, on a huge discount, right? And in those situations, like you want to be careful in terms of valuations of how this NFT is treated, because a lot of times you can directly dump on the market at a very, very low sale, and sometimes that can affect your Oracle pricing quite a bit on the floor, and you want to take those transactions with a grain of salt. So each different NFTs has its own different history. If you can identify how it's been used in a financial way, whether it was a collateral for something, was defaulted, it's easier to understand different history of an NFT when you can properly track which contracts it's been through and how it got to where it went.
Yeah, so even a really recent situation happened with Azuki on Bendao, if you have been following them. Essentially, with the mint of the elementals, there was a huge dump on the price of Azuki. However, the Oracle of Bendao still didn't account for this. At some point, the floor price for Azuki on, let's say, even on the marketplaces was about 9, 10 ETH, and the Oracle for Benz remained at above 14, which essentially left a lot of Azukis there for liquidation, essentially defaulting, which shouldn't have happened. That's why even on our side, we've also been following this, and we even did a comparison between our Oracle and the one utilized by Bendao. And the problem that we identified is that they just didn't took into account the fact that you should find this problematic trade-off between reliability and responsiveness. And if you actually account for it, then you're also going to be able to solve for this tail event handling. Yeah. This is what we actually managed to achieve with our floor prices, just because we are more cautious of such kind of a black swan event.
Yeah. In those situations, like being able to account for these steep drops, very, very violent dumps actually of floor prices. If as a protocol you're not well protected for downside movements, like and your perhaps TWAP is too slow, you can very much put your lenders at risk in terms of entering bad debt very, very quickly. So yeah, these are definitely like very delicate algorithms and structures that should be considered quite carefully for builders.
Exactly, and also because now we have just briefly touched on the lenders and the fact that sometimes they can get some pretty cheap and let's say on discount NFTs. On the other side, if you are in the shoes of a borrower, you can either, let's say, try to protect the downside by, let's say just shorting the NFT, even if you're, let's say, holding it right now. Or on the other side, I have noticed that on a bunch of occasions, there are just users going to one of the NFTfi protocols and borrowing against their NFT just before an upcoming dump. And then eventually they're just hedging their position, and the lender is supposed to be left with an NFT that is discounted, but it even gets worse. Yeah. So this is something that should also be taken into account.
Yeah, 100%. We've covered quite a bit. Is there anything else that the MetaQuants team has been focusing on in terms of different products? I came across different terms in your documentations. There's around like wallet tracker. There's credit risk score on your website. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about MetaQuants' service offerings and products you guys are creating.
Yeah, absolutely. All of these things you have just mentioned, they're in a work in progress right now. We're going to update timely once we actually get to launching them. But the most important thing is that we're actually indexing the bigger part of the NFT lending protocols out there. We are also providing our Oracle as a service to different use cases. We already named a few on the lending, the borrowing, and the perpetual side. And we're also happy to collaborate with anyone who is interested to get on board on the MK terminal in one way or another. So if you want to dive deeper into the technicalities of our Oracle and want to learn more about them, just go through the documentation and see if you want us to go through it and discuss it. We are always open for DMs. We'll be happy to discuss this more with anyone who is interested. So yeah, that's more or less on our side.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys for coming on to the show today and kind of share what you guys have been up to and how users can follow and use your web app. And there's a ton of things that I'm really excited about that we'll be releasing along with MetaQuants team over the next couple of weeks. We are partnering up with them a lot of our data infrastructure level, and yeah, there's a lot to be looking forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again for inviting us, and yeah, we'll be happy to chat again.
Likewise. Have a good weekend. Thanks, everyone.
You too. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, guys. Hope this was useful for you as well.
Absolutely. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Look at My JPEG podcast. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your audio podcast from, give us a like, a subscribe if you like the content, and we'll see you in the next episode.